I really just think the crucial part of university and higher education is the connection and the conversations and all the ideas that come up between students. And I think that even being on campus leads you to conversations after class or before class. And just the campus culture is a huge part of it. In the same way that companies have to work on their company culture, and that essentially is what cements the working experience and, the individual's motivation, I think that's the same for universities. You really have to harbor a student community and you have to harbor the campus culture that you're looking for because it makes so much of a difference. Mm-hmm. Like, I know for my friends in high school when they were applying to colleges, I had such a hard time understanding why someone was so adamant about going to Illinois versus Indiana versus Wisconsin. It all seems so similar to me, especially if they're looking at the same degree all over the boards. And obviously each one has pros and cons, different professors, but I just really didn't understand what was so different. And then I would ask them and they would say, well, I feel like me as a person aligns with this university more and this university more, and it totally clicked. Like, it's all about the culture that a place creates.
Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Yael Hadass with a new episode of our podcast, The Future Economist, the podcast where we talk about education, about economics, and about the education of economics. I'm the academic head of economics at a double major degree of business administration and economics at the Rafael Recanati International School at Reichman University. And today I have a guest. My guest is a first-year student, Maya Zadik. Welcome, Maya.
Hi, Elle. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. It's always a pleasure to talk with our students and see how they see the world. And I guess I would start with maybe just so our audience would know who you are. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Maya Zadik. I'm 22 years old, from Chicago, grew up in Chicago my whole life. I moved to Israel 4 years ago, celebrated 4 years in Israel last week. Very exciting.
Congratulations.
I moved here to join the military. I was an artillery instructor in the Army, finished last December, and I started at Reichman University this past fall. Yeah, so finishing up exams right now, finishing the first year.
Wow, that's a very busy 4 years.
Yeah.
So what made you want to stay in Israel? You came here, by the way, you did a very demanding job in the Army.
So I actually applied and got into Reichman University when I was a junior in high school. Back then it was IDC. But I knew I wanted to come here from the beginning, and they're really flexible with freezing admission. It's not exactly a deferral like it is in the US. You just kind of freeze your admission. So I knew that that was my plan from when I made Aliyah. And then when I finished the Army, I kind of reassessed everything. It was like, do I actually want to stay here? Do I want to study in the US? Do I want to study here? Do I want to study in Europe? And after looking into the program again, I really realized that Reichman is just really where I want to be. And by that point, I had already had such a strong community here in the country as far as friends and family that I've been more in contact since I moved to Israel. And it really just felt like the right move to stay.
And why did you choose business administration and economics?
So business administration, most of my community growing up was in the business world. And it was kind of this, I don't want to say default in the sense of it was easy and this is what I assumed was going to happen, but I was surrounded by it my entire life and it was something that interested me. So I did want to get exposure and at least knowledge in the business world because I think it's just universally really applicable and really useful skills. As far as economics, I took an economics course in high school and it was one of the first classes that I would come home to my parents and be like, guys, listen to what we learned today, like a third grader, like coming home and telling them all these fun facts and like, whoa, I finally understand that I'm hearing this in the news and this is how it's applicable. And
that's in third grade?
No, sorry. I'm saying the excitement was that of third graders coming home from school and telling my parents things I learned in school.
Uh-huh.
So it was really exciting to just have this, like my interest just peaked and this passion just light up inside of me. And it felt like one of those classes that you walk out of a class and you understand different levels of the world and you hear the news and you actually understand on a deeper level. And the applications, even in your real life, are huge. Like I think about it all the time. I make so many econ jokes to myself, to my friends. It's just something that really gets in your head, and once it's there, you can't get it out. So the only option is to learn more.
And what kind of application to your daily life as a 22-year-old?
I mean, opportunity cost, I feel like, is the one that comes up most often, but it's so true. Like, am I going to spend an hour sitting on my phone scrolling through social media? Am I going to spend an hour going on a run and getting some energy in my system, or studying, or this? I weigh all the costs and benefits and choose the one that feels the most correct and makes the most sense for where I'm at right now. I feel like that's the most basic application of it, but it surprises me all the time. I'll just be thinking about something. I'm like, oh, this is what I did in homework this week. So that's one aspect of it. And I've actually talked about this a lot with my friend Ellie from the degree, who also spoke. And we really agreed on this general idea of economics being a beautiful harmony between qualitative and quantitative. And again, that being with the exposure to a business degree and business applications, it really just comes together so well. and I really think the whole degree feels it. We'll be sitting in, I don't know, finance class and stats class, and all of us are like, whoa, because we finally understand how it all clicks in. I feel like it's just a really versatile, really applicable, and really fascinating field of study.
Yes, it's lovely to hear it from someone who is very young, because I can tell you that for me, it took several years to really get it. And every time I must tell you, even today, I still see new things. That's the beauty of this profession. It's really, as you say, very versatile, and you can see a lot of applications all the time. So it's also lovely for me to see, that from the beginning you already see the beauty of it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like, I don't remember details of chemistry class or physics class I learned in high school, and no hate on chemistry or physics, awesome subjects. But it wasn't something that really just passed. Usually you have an exam, you forget about it the next year. Economics was one that 4 years later, I would still read the news or hear things going on and have those econ clicks going on in my head. And being able to come back and get back into econ, start learning about it is so exciting. Really.
Yeah, it's funny because, economists, for the people who are not economists, many times look to people very dry. People are very afraid from economics. People do not understand it because it's a language. So I'm actually very, happy to expose the fact that people who do know it find it really exciting. And not just, okay, this is where we have to pass an exam now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's exciting. So tell me a little bit about your life here as a student. How does it look?
So my life as a student, I'm juggling a lot. I work as a student also. I work at a fintech company in Tel Aviv, which is super fun. I'm really happy that I started there. And I was debating a lot if I wanted to start a job first year or just let myself get acclimated to life as a student. But I'm really happy I did. I think that it's really added to my experience. So I have that going on. Wait.
So tell us, how did you get a job as a first year? And what do you do there? What is your role?
So I have a friend who was at the company, and he was telling me about his job. And I was like, wow, that sounds really great. Super flexible hours. So he kind of brought me on board. And, passed my CV through, had an interview, and I really just aligned with the company's values. It was really exciting to be in the interview and not, putting on that interview face of, oh, this is like my best shiny, personality. But me and the interviewer were really like, whoa, yeah, I totally align with you on that. So that was really exciting. And my title there is a chargeback analyst. So we work in the whole realm of chargebacks, banks, credit cards, and it's a really great job for a student. Everyone who is in the position, almost everyone, is in the same boat. Students working part-time, a lot of people also in economics or data analysis or finance, so people who are very like-minded, and it's fun to get to know people from other schools and also Israelis.
Is it a big company?
It's growing really fast. In our department, we have close to 100 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the name of the company?
It's called Just,
okay.
2 T's.
What do they do?
So the whole company is just fighting chargebacks, which is a whole part of the financial ecosystem that I really didn't know too much about. But it's a really fascinating space. But what do you mean by chargebacks?
It means that you're charging by fraud or something like that?
Yeah, so essentially in the US it's more prevalent because in Israel and Europe they have stricter laws against it. But in the US you can essentially see a charge on your credit card statement and say, oh, this wasn't me. Whether it was or wasn't, you can say this wasn't me. And then the bank gives you the money back. pretty much instantly. And most consumers and credit card holders think that's where it ends. Oh, easy peasy. I either actually got my money back from something that shouldn't have happened, or I got my money back on something that I shouldn't have done. But what a lot of people don't see is that then the banks go to the business or small business that, they had originally done the transaction with, and then the business has to front the cash. So we work with merchants who are dealing with chargebacks, and a huge percentage of those are fraudulent, which is so heartbreaking.
Okay, so why are you so passionate about your job?
I really align with the company's values. It is a company that fights for justice and fights for small merchants and small businesses, which is super exciting as a student job, that you're not pushing papers and not doing busy work, and you're doing something that you actually feel like you're making a difference. At the end of my shift, I can look back at the cases I've closed, and it's really exciting to feel like I'm actually helping businesses and helping, people in the financial ecosystem who often fall between the cracks, which is super exciting.
So you actually find the people who lied to the banks?
So not exactly. I can't really get into details about how, my job gets done, but essentially, when a chargeback goes through the system, a consumer or a cardholder disputes a charge that was on their credit card statement, whether justified or not. It usually goes through, meaning that the bank gives them back their money. Then the bank goes to the smaller businesses and is like, all right, pay up. Like, I'm not fronting this. So then we go in and assess whether it was actually fraudulent and try to get the money back when the businesses are actually in the right. So it's a really great company to be a part of. They've done an amazing job breeding this beautiful company culture. And the whole company, even though it is growing and we're over 100 people, I think over 200 people company-wide, it still feels super close and super warm, which is really, really fun.
Wow, that's amazing to hear from a first year, I must say, because many times the first year get to do all the, boring, like tedious labors, and
exactly.
In the past it would be to photocopy. Now people don't photocopy, but other equivalent tasks. So it sounds like this is something you really put your mind into, right?
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, when I was looking for a job, or when I was even toying with the idea of a job, the main goal of it was just kind of, boost the CV, boost the resume, get some exposure. And I'm super lucky that I fell in a company and a job that is way more than that, which is a great feeling.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also a great experience.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
Later on you'll come with a lot of, good human capital out of this experience.
Yes. And so that is part of my life, but obviously being a student, the top priority is being a student. So come to class, I do my homework, we have study groups, study on campus, study at coffee shops. I have a favorite coffee shop in the area where I study.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Which
it's a lot of fun. Mimi.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's great. I always meet friends there, and it's a good time. And campus is honestly a great place to be. It's more than just, where I come for class and go home. It's such a good atmosphere. It's a great place to run into people. And because of the community it brings in, there's always interesting people to talk to, and I run into old friends, I run into friends from the degree, I have friends in other degrees, and we all kind of mesh, and campus is just a great place for that. Not to mention it really is just a beautiful place to be. And
the fact that, we have such a nice weather allow you to be outdoors all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not used to that from Chicago.
Yeah.
We're indoors like 9 months out of the year. So it's fun to just be able to be outside all the time.
Yeah, I can tell you that I can definitely relate to that. I spent several years of my life in Boston. It was very, very cold.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's something I truly appreciate. And how is it the international community? Can you tell us a little bit about all the students?
Right. So that actually is one of the biggest reasons that I decided to study at Reichman University in the end, especially with an economics degree. The exposure to an international community of students who all come from such diverse backgrounds, different cultures and political systems, different religions. It's so interesting. I really just... I'm so grateful to be in this kind of community. I grew up my entire life in Chicago, and I was always really interested in other cultures and other places. Much as reading or watching YouTube videos or documentaries can do, nothing compares to, even like spending 5 hours researching, air quotes, is not even close to even a 5-minute conversation with someone who grew up in a different place. And I think especially in an economics degree, the exposure to different cultures, different mindsets, different norms even add so much to the degree. Like I know even in our conversations during class, you know, all of a sudden I hear someone who will say, oh, well, in my city, in my country, this is how things work. And it's so fascinating. And I can watch, you know, me and all my classmates in front of me, you know, pull up a quick tab onto Google, marking that as something they want to research later, which is something that I don't think I would have gotten in an American school, because most of the students come from a very similar community, even if they're from different states. And it's one of my favorite things about studying here.
And does it pose also a difficulty, like culture barriers?
So I think that it could. Honestly, I haven't dealt with that too much, except for in a very harmless, almost funny way where, you know, like I'll use an American idiom that someone will misunderstand and get really freaked out, you know, like silly things like that. And also being in Israel so long, my Hebrew starts to, you know, leak into my English. So I'm translating idioms in Hebrew into English that don't make sense. So it comes out, but never in a way that affects my learning or my experience here. It really adds to, you know, it's just a funny experience that can bring people closer, in my opinion.
That's fantastic to hear. Yeah. You know, it's not something to be taken for granted. You know, I can tell you that from my experience doing the opposite, like I was an Israeli going to the US, I remember that one of the things that really sort of like confused me was people's reaction to the question, how are you doing? And people would tell me, not too bad. Now, in Israel, you don't say not too bad. Maybe something is wrong. You don't know what to ask people. How do you react to that?
Exactly.
And I found myself very bewildered at the beginning. I was like, okay, what should I answer to that?
Exactly.
It can make you very uncomfortable. So it sounds like you sort of like did not have that, and I'm very happy to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of moving to Israel, I definitely had things like that. A lot of my army friends, they still tell stories of funny slip-ups I had or questions that I would ask. But I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of at the point where I really look at it in the best way possible. Like, it's going to happen. It'll happen. If this isn't your native language, if this isn't the culture you grew up in, it's going to happen. Why not make the best of it? And it really does create funny stories. So...
So yeah, I'm happy to hear it. Okay, so why won't we talk a little bit about like the education? Because you know that in this podcast where I'm very, very interested, it's sort of like a research I'm saying with every one of my guests about the fact that we have this like, you know, this new internet Zoom era where we can do everything online. And the question is, do we still need the university? Do we still need the structure of the old school sort of like ways, or do this new technology say that we should change the way we learn? What do you think?
So I think that yes, it should change the way we learn. Everything else is changing, and I think that embracing change in the right way and really not taking for granted anything about the education system can bring amazing experience and amazing things into lives of students and educators, and, you know, after they graduate, eventually into society. If I were to propose a model for education and in, you know, higher education, the college level, what I would love to see is on the more discussion-based classes, or even in, let's say, microeconomics, I think a few lessons where you're in person, interacting, learning the basic material, you have homework to do at home where you can actually practice and apply your learning, and then in-person class discussion, Socratic seminar style of talking about ideas and conversations, because the interaction between the students and the educators is so huge. And yes, you can get it over Zoom. Personally, I have a harder time focusing when I'm at home over Zoom, and that's also why I think learning the kind of like raw material, equations, numbers, techniques, that for me is much easier in class. But I think that there is a lot of, you know, the hybrid style learning that can be implemented and used at home, where you learn the very basics in school, apply it at home in practices, in problem sets, in homework questions. And then the interaction, the in-class conversation, which I think is just so much better actually in person, not over Zoom, even though it's possible, is incredible and so much fun. And I really think that's how the puzzle pieces all connect.
But then it sounds that you're sort of like saying that the old way of school is like, should remain. I do not understand what is new in what you propose.
So I feel like with us, in the degree, a lot of the teachers, for example, instead of going through homework in class, will have pre-recorded videos, or in our class, we have a recitationist who goes over the homework with us. That is something that I really like, but I think could be pushed even more.
Digitally, you mean?
Digitally, yeah, for sure. Like having recorded videos on explanations, or really just really detailed problem sets or really detailed solution books. So yes, it's similar to the original like model of schooling, but just more fleshed out. So you're spending less time in class with, you know, the material and more the application.
I see.
Because I think that in the classroom interaction, the questions that come up is so valuable. Mm-hmm. I really see that is how it all clicks in. It's really when the technique can actually click into application and can click into other applications more than what you're practicing. Mm-hmm. That is kind of where I see it going.
I see. So basically you're saying that the technicality, you know, you can even maybe relate it to books. Like, you know, sort of our era is not so much used to go into textbooks, I think. Less than my cohort, I would say. And if you think about books, in the books, like in Manicure, for instance, in economics, you have everything I teach, right? It's enough for you to just read a book and practice. You don't need to come to class. But you do come to class because you do need it, right? So basically what you're saying is that all these technicalities that was in the past, maybe in books, should be now digital.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. And honestly, depending on the topic, I think that even the initial learning of the topic or technique could be done digitally even. Mm-hmm. I really just think the crucial part of university and higher education is the connection and the conversations and all the ideas that come up between students. And I think that even being on campus leads you to conversations after class or before class. And just the campus culture is a huge part of it. In the same way that companies have to work on their company culture, and that essentially is what cements the working experience and, you know, the individual's motivation, I think that's the same for universities. You really have to harbor a student community, and you have to harbor the campus culture that you're looking for, because it makes so much of a difference. Mm-hmm. Like, I know for my friends in high school when they were applying to colleges, I had such a hard time understanding why someone was so adamant about going to Illinois versus Indiana versus Wisconsin. It all seems so similar to me, mm-hmm. you know, especially if they're looking at the same degree all over the boards. And obviously each one has pros and cons, different professors, but I just really didn't understand what was so different. And then I would ask them and they would say, well, I feel like me as a person aligns with this university more and this university more, and it totally clicked. Like, it's all about the culture that a place creates. And I really align with Reichman Universities. And I think it's all about, you know, I think Israel and Reichman really have this entrepreneurial mindset, which seeps into all the degrees, and everyone is always thinking about innovation and advancing and application of the things they're learning, and they're always looking for exposure to new ideas and new concepts. And that's something that I don't think you can really get over Zoom. You're not going to find that in a Zoom chat room. Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting that, you know, every person I asked about told me sort of at the end that the human interaction is like the key of the whole thing. And it's not only about, you know, because you would think differently, you may say that, you know, the fact that you can do Zoom, you actually open up, you know, education for people from, you know, very far places, very poor places, you know.
And I think there are still ways to implement that. For example, you could have discussions or certain lessons or speakers come in and incorporate people from different places or different schools, or do kind of an exchange program where you join lectures from other universities who are doing some sort of collaboration. And I think that there is definitely room for that, and exploring that could be a really fascinating thing. But I don't know. For me, student connection, student community, campus culture is so important, and a huge part of my experience here. When people ask me what my experience is at Reichman University, it's usually one of the first things that I mention.
Wow, that's so nice to hear. And do you see, like, the fact that, you know, in the past, you know, you would take a degree, you're done, you're going to the workplace. Now, you sort of have to educate yourself all the time throughout your life. How do you see that?
Well, I find it really exciting, and I think it's a really interesting aspect, because it really was you kind of go into your field and you get settled into, 9 to 5, you stay in the same job, you stay in the same career. And again, that's a generalization, obviously not for everyone, but I feel like with people my age and my friends and my other students with me have such this like thirst for knowledge, and it's so readily available. Like I mentioned earlier, that something will come up in class and I see people pull up a tab on their computer to save the concept for later. And at least in the people that I'm surrounded with, I feel like everyone really implements that. One of my best friends, I always compliment her on this. She always has Wikipedia just ready on her phone to look up a concept, and she dives into all these random concepts. One week it was blood types, one week, like, I don't know. I feel that a lot with people my age, and I think that it becoming something that workplaces are looking for and that society and every industry pretty much needs really works well together. It's not that one side is struggling with it and it doesn't have a place in the workforce. I think both are coming at a time where it's readily available for the students or, employees, and the workplace really needs it. And I think it's just beautiful that both of them are coming in tandem. I think that the hybrid system, like we mentioned earlier, there definitely are setbacks, but for the classes that are over Zoom or are mostly electronic, it gives people so much more time to dive into things that they're interested in but may not have had the time if they have to commute to school or stay for breaks in between classes. So there are benefits to both sides, but I really, really love this concept of just like perpetual learning. It's so exciting. And even the fact that it's so available on phones. Like I have Duolingo that I'm kind of addicted to. I have an
what do you study?
Long Spanish. Spanish. I have kind of an unhealthily long streak at this point, but it's just you have so much information at your fingertips, and there are also apps where you can practice coding on your phone, which is really, really crazy and really exciting. And they do it in this game approach where it's 15 minutes and you get points, and they're cute little character animals who tell you good job. And I think that exposure to it on phones really just can spark that in even the younger generation, like my brother's age and stuff like that. And things like Coursera and TED Talks and YouTube, it's really exciting how it's all out there, and I don't see it ever going away. I think that the incorporation of it, like I know you have even assigned us to watch TED Talks and really embrace the information that's out there is so valuable.
I'm totally with you. It's very, very exciting. It sounds like it gets more and more and more abundant. There's like more and more all the time.
Exactly. And how we were talking about the human connection that happens on campus, that only encourages that, because you get exposure to new ideas. Someone will say something that will, spark an interest or raise an eyebrow, and you get that, oh, maybe I should look more into this. And again, that's something you get less on Zoom, and sparks this kind of, learning behavior and always searching for more information, always searching for more knowledge. I'm part of the Investment Group Israel. It is a really exciting organization that's still very much at its beginning. I was this year part of the fundamentals track in English, and the whole basis of the organization is, getting people into the financial world of knowledge. I don't even want to say industry, because it's so much more than that. It starts with everything from personal finance to the 101 of what is a bond, what is a stock, what is savings, what is personal budgeting. And it was really, really a great experience to be a part of that organization this year. We had awesome speakers come in who were so inspiring, and part of the interconnectivity of today is you can add them on LinkedIn and see what they're up to. And if it's someone that you align with or a company that you align with, you can stay up to date, and who knows what it'll bring down the line. Maybe a job opportunity, fingers crossed. So that is a really interesting part of my student life. And I don't want to say day-to-day, because our meetings are once a week, but it really has become a day-to-day.
Really a daily thing you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, the two leaders of the track this year encouraged us, like our first meeting, I remember one of the first things they said was start reading the news. And I had read the news before, but it wasn't necessarily part of my everyday routine. Now, every day when I make breakfast, I listen to a news podcast and a financial news podcast, and it's really, really exciting to just be exposed to that. And I feel like finances and money was kind of those taboo, don't talk about that conversations. You know, there's that unspoken rule of you don't talk about three things at the dinner table: sports, politics, and money.
Sports? You don't talk about sports?
It's kind of a
divider. Like people get upset.
My grandparents are from Kentucky, and so it was just kind of one of those like cultural unspoken rules. You don't talk about maybe controversial things at the dinner table. And one of the things that I found since moving to Israel is I moved when I was 18, and everyone I moved with was also 18 or under 25. And so we were all in this weird place of not quite adulthood, but definitely not a kid. And a huge part of that is personal finances, financial independence, financial literacy. And, you know, we're making our own households, we're making our own adult life. So we get to make our own dinner conversations. And it really became this destigmatized conversation of, oh, how much do you pay for rent? How much are you making? Do you save? Do you invest? And it was so interesting to go from, I don't know, a high school mentality of you make money so you can go to Dunkin' Donuts or go to the mall, to all of a sudden, here's how I'm in control of my life via my finances. And here's how to prioritize what I need in my life and how that fits into my budget, which again, you know, ties straight into economics. And it's a really fun implementation of that in my personal life. And so after I got out of the Army, we had talked about online education and courses and all of that. So after I got out of the Army, in between starting university, I took courses on Coursera. I got myself educated on investing, and it was a really fun little passion project. I was my own teacher and, you know, built myself lesson plans, which was super fun. But incorporating that into my day-to-day and into my conversations with friends and conversations with cousins and adults was super exciting. And then coming to campus and all of a sudden having this outlet for it and this community and a group that I meet with once a week and talk about it and learn more information with was, honestly, I'm so grateful. It was such a blessing, and I'm really excited to stay involved with the organization. And I think
it's a student-led. We should say that it's student-led.
It is a student-led organization and alumni-led also. You have alumni of like then IDC, now Reichman, who are still very involved and want to see this as more than an extracurricular and something you meet with 2 hours a week and really turn it into this organization. And I really align with their mission.
Yeah, so I actually always was wondering what is the vision, where did they want to take it at the end, when it would be no more student activity but something else. What is the goal?
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think it can be both an extracurricular activity that's offered on campus, but from what I understand of the the missions organization, is that it's going to go into other schools and maybe go into high schools and be kind of a more recognized name and something that people my age can, you know, look to for information, for a place to go, and really that community of let's talk about it. Like, let's get everyone financially stable, financially independent, and comfortable with their finances. So that is something that I'm really excited to be a part of, super passionate about. And it's really just been a great year with them. And
I think you're going to be leading something next year, right?
Yeah. So
I already got a rumor about that. I got a great compliment that my students rock the whole thing, and that's what I heard from one of your founders.
Yes, the business economics students really are a driving force in that. But that's one of the things that I think is, I don't want to say an issue because obviously it's great, but I'm really excited to see more involvement from students from other majors, communication, psychology, government, sustainability, because this isn't a business economics student area of knowledge. This is basic knowledge that everyone should have and everyone can have. So I'm really excited to get more people from other curriculums and other schools involved. But yes, I can confirm your rumors. Jareth and I, who's another classmate, are going to be leading the fundamentals track in English, the track that I did this year. So I'm really excited to see that and really just become part of the organization, at least for next year. But I definitely want to stay involved and be able to give the experience that I was so lucky to receive this year to next year's students, which is super exciting.
Wow, good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's very exciting. I actually know this, from the very first day that Zakokun decided to start this thing. I know about this. I've been all the time contacted about it and how they had a lot of problems at the beginning. And I'm very, impressed with how it developed.
Yes, and you came to one of the women's investment groups. That was a really great session.
Yeah, it's very important to involve women. Women are not involved enough in money. It's something very sad. And I'm very happy that the organization started to understand that, because at first, all the LinkedIn posts were only men. So why would women come? It's sort of like you have to sort of broadcast diversity.
Exactly. It is kind of an intimidating forum, but I'm really excited to be involved in it, especially as a woman. And you're totally right. It really does feel like a male-dominated area to be in. And I've had a lot of conversations about this recently with female friends of mine, both here and in the US. And it's kind of this, I don't really need to deal with that. That's not really my thing. And it's kind of concerning.
It's very concerning.
It's definitely concerning. And I have friends that, and I definitely say it too, like I'll joke about myself that I'm becoming a finance bro. And it's just, I'd fall into it and I say it too, but it's just, why is talking about finances, why is being interested in money and investments and savings an inherently male thing? It's not a finance gal, it's a finance bro.
No, but you're one of the people who changed that. Yeah. You shouldn't be finance bro, you should be finance gal.
I'm super finance gal.
Exactly. No, I think it does has a history, because in the past the men would make the money and the women would be at home. So whoever gets the money gets to decide.
Yeah.
So now women can provide from themselves, so they have to have all the decisions tools in order to make good decisions. It's not enough to leave it for the men, but it's a sort of a really social change that is now happening. And I can tell you that because I'm also very interested in that. I'm involved in several Facebook groups that women, one of them have like 80,000 members that try to understand things about money.
Yeah.
So women start to sort of like wake up and see. But the interesting part is that women are afraid to talk about money next to men.
Yes.
That's the bizarre thing, if you ask me. So, you have these secluded groups that if you would say that this is an old men club, people would, be very upset. What is this, how can you seclude? But when it's for women, it's sort of more acceptable, at least now, because it comes from a place of inferiority, I would say, from weakness, I would say.
Yeah. I definitely have had moments where I feel like that and get kind of intimidated, like, what if I don't know enough about this? What if I'm not saying the right thing? And I think an aspect of that is the gender separation. And it is like, this is, I don't know. I feel like I'm not man enough for this, which is inherently just a really silly way and so frustrating to break out of that, conditioning of thinking about it. And I think the involvement of women is definitely picking up, and it's really exciting. I'll be scrolling through my Instagram feed and all of a sudden I see an influencer who has thousands, even hundreds of thousands of followers, and it's all about financial literacy for women, which is really cool. And I've seen a lot of those popping up on social media lately. Maybe my algorithm is just picking up on that, but it's really exciting to see. And I feel like there are so many male influencers or social media where they're talking about investment tips and how to get rich quick. And all of a sudden I'm seeing women who are influencers, not just posting outfit pics or travel pictures, but also talking about 401ks and investment plans and what X, Y, or Z means. So it's really fun to see that on social media, because that's really, like, recently, especially where you start to see social change and emerging trends.
Absolutely. So you start early.
Yeah.
But that's good. Fantastic. Sure. Wow, such a great role female model. I'm very excited. So thank you so much for coming to our podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Same for me. Fantastic. And now I'm going to greet our audience and say, if we got you interested about economics, you are welcome to look at our website at the Business Administration and Economics double major degree at Reichman University. And also get to know our international school, where we have many more other fascinating degrees and people from all over the world. And we are very happy you are with us. And thank you, Maya.
Thank you.